Before we start this, the meeting, the hearing of submitters for the local ward has done well. Do we have an officer that wants to talk about the report?
John is downstairs shifting people up. Are you okay to take this, Josie, or would you like me to?
I can do it, that's fine.
Fantastic, thank you, Josie.
Hello everyone, so I'm here to present the report for the local water has done well, Future of our Water Services Consultation Hearing Report. Key things to note is that over the consultation period that ran from 21st of March to the 22nd of April, we had 139 submissions, and of those 139 submissions, 11 parties indicated that they wished to be heard. In terms of the process from there, all the parties that wish to be heard have received a copy of the hearing procedure and also a copy of their submission. So if there's any questions, I'm welcome to receive those, otherwise I'll hand it over.
Yeah. Any questions for Josie? Thank you, Josie. Just from a pure housekeeping, we've got no conflicts of interest. Well, have we got any conflicts of interest? Yes.
I'm a member of the Masterton Ratepayers and Residents Association.
Member of the Masterton Ratepayers. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm the co-chair of Rangitani and Wairarapa Incorporated.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we don't have any apologies, public forum, late items, confirmation of council minutes or committee reports, so we're straight into it. Could I have the first submitter, please? Which is Cashmore. Online. Yeah, it's coming online. Custeri. He has not turned up yet?
If I made it first submitter, we haven't been able to get that in terms of confirmation for attendance, so we're not sure if they'll be here or not.
So we would be better to put him aside? Okay, we'll do that. Amber, can you do yours now? We're running ahead of time, but first person hasn't turned up.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Just here.
Yeah, thank you. Amber, the way this works is you've got 7 minutes to present. We've got 3 minutes for questions. The bell will ring at 6 minutes, just to let you know how you're going with your 7 minutes.
Yeah.
The hearings are being live streamed, and our deliberations are on May the 21st. So you can take it for granted that your submission has been read, and it's just over to you how you, in your 7 minutes, how you want to present. Thank you.
Kia ora. Mai arara te maunga o rangitū mau e tūnei. Mai arara te awa o Rōmahanga e tiri nei. Mai arara whakamaua ki ao tina. Tina te pū, tina te aka. Tina te mori e Hawaiki. Kia kotahi ko te kāhui ariki. Kia kotahi ko te kāhui tipua. Kia kotahi ko ngā uri o Rangitāne e tūnei. Haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. Nā mihi nui ki a papa tuanuku, tēnā koe. Nā mihi nui ki ngā mana whenua o te rohi. Ko Rangitāne, rawa ko kahunanu, tēnā kōrua. Nā mihi nui ki te maha o ngā hapu o tēnei whenua. Tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mihi nui ki ngā kai whakahaere mō tēnei kaupapa e tēnei rā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Amber Craig taku ingoa, he paura taki whenua ahau ki te Rangitani o Wairarapa Incorporated. Hurio nō konei. He whakapapa mō te wai. Ka moi, a rangi nui i a papa tuanuku, ka puta, ka tānei. Ka moi a tānei i a heni tū pare maunga, ka puta ka parawhenua mea. Kia mau, kia parawhenua mea. In te ao Māori, our wai is a taonga. Our atua, rangi nui, papa tuanuku, tāne, heni tū pare maunga, Parawhenua Mia, and many more, all tell the story of our taiao, our environment, and how it is interconnected. The holistic nature of our environment's ecosystem. We whakapapa to our atua, to Parawhenua Mia, our source of our waterways as she descends down through Hini to Parimaunga, our cliffs, ranges and mountains. These atua guide us in the natural world, and our kaupapa is about upholding and supporting them all. We start from them and work to where they guide us. Solutions such as whale oil to heal kauri dieback is being a perfect example. This would seem like a disconnected solution until you look at our whakapapa. At Papua in the late 1850s, Hoani Te Whatuhora Juri, alongside Aporo Te Kumaroa, began documenting one of the most prolific manuscripts of our practices today. 3 tohunga were recorded. They were Te Mātarohanga, Te Okowhare, and Nepia Pōhuhu. It was innovative for their time, and because it was our people who did it, there was no other person writing our views down without context. People such as Wiramu Hikawera Mahupuku, Tā Wherematia, Tā Whao Ngātuiri, Taiawhio Tika Winga Te Tau, and many more tupuna wrote down their own manuscripts in addition to the Waiata, Mōtiatia, Purako. We have been passed down through the generations. We have many taonga sitting within whānau that inform us of mātauranga Māori, as mana whenua and as kaitiaki. We know from this mātauranga that Parawhenua Mia is the mokopuna of Papatuanuku, and for us in the Wairarapa is one of our atua of wai. We know that Te Hurihanga wai is the process of how our wai cycles through our atmosphere, our world. We have known that for multiple generations. Science calls this the hydrologic cycle. We have names for all the wai in the cycle of that process. We have names for all the types of oni or dirt. We have names for all the types of wind we face, for clouds, for kohatu, stone. We even have names for tutai, or bio-waste, which is tapu. We have a whakapapa for everything, and with that comes purako, our stories. Our ancestors were the masters of observation. We observed taiao, we passed on this knowledge orally, thousands of years of observations that we still use today. Our atua, our whakapapa, and our purako tells us how this works. It is our job as kaitiaki of this mātauranga Māori and of our wai to interpret this knowledge, contextually apply it, and adapt it with advancements of today, such as technology. That is our role as kaitiaki. But to have this conversation, we also need to understand the concepts of tapu and noa. For the purposes of today, I will keep this very simple because I feel like you could write a whole thesis on this concept. The word tapu is often translated as sacred. However, other words such as prohibited, forbidden, special, nor ordinary, and to be set apart convey a context of what the meaning of tapu is. Noa can be described as freedom from restriction, that something may be ordinary and safe. Tapu and noa are intrinsically linked. Everything can possess tapu. We can move between tapu and noa. We've been given the tools and concepts from our mātauranga Māori to do so. But to break tapu is a hara, a violation. The past 180 years, there has been a breaking of tapu. This has either been through consciously or unconsciously allowing bio-waste to be put into our waterways, destroying the mauri of our wai, of our atua, and of our tinana for those that eat our kaimoana and collect kai from our waterways. There is a research paper that the Centre for Integrated Biowaste Research has done at Sion, and it's a great paper that if you would like to read further is from Tapu to Noa, Māori Cultural Views on Biowaste Management, a focus on biosolids, and that brings together 7 great authors in their whakaaro. In Wairarapa we have our own stories about how we dealt with biowaste. We know and have been listening to whānau and communities that large infrastructure projects with massive installation costs accumulate massive maintenance costs and end up costing us more when they fail. We also know that they make our communities, our hapu and our whānau weak. They remove our resilience within a world that is experiencing mass climate change events. And trust me, the only constant is that they will fail in some way. We know because we've been near holding the fort along with our communities. with each of these projects that have gone wrong. We have been passed on stories from our kaumātua as warnings of lessons never to repeat. We're in the communities every day as well, working with them, because we and our future generations will bear the brunt of the impacts decisions made today. What do we need to do? We need to go back to our community, our whānau and hapu. We need hapu and community responses to our bio-waste. We need to sit down with science and te ao Māori, Mātauranga Māori, to look at how we deal with the waste. We are producing manageable solutions. We need to be brave and we need to be innovative. A quick example, by looking at solutions that reduce water use in our toilets, showers and baths, we could reduce our water waste in the house by 65%.
Amber, if I could just interrupt you, you're on your last 30 seconds actually. But
Yeah,
we can go to questions, but we wouldn't be able to take questions. So
Yep.
you've got 3 minutes for your
Yeah, I'm aware, thank you. An incinerator cooler after a week or two, people would dispense a cup of ash, 35% of the average water use of a whare. Burning poo rather than plastics would actually be healthier for all of us and ensure we're not utilising precious whenua to deal with our waste. There's more conversations we can have for organisations that are utilising our water across our whenua, such as horticulture and farmers. I'll leave that for a different day. We've listened to our whānau voices. We don't need more strategic and executive committees to get the work done. Utilising things like Auckland Watercare, who ran their first citizens' assembly recently, although again, that's not a new concept, that's something that's come from ancient Athens 2,500 years ago. More closer to home, Rangitane o Wairarapa Incorporated has been leading a co-design process with Greater Wellington, where we bring multiple councils, ministries, community and experts to the table with mana whenua representatives. We share stories, information, and we move forward together. We co-plan, co-design, co-deliver, and co-manage. This has actually delivered better outcomes for the mangatāriri that we've been prototyping on down there to reduce the flooding within Masterton and also reduce the erosion of the land for our communities. We need more contextual solutions tailored to our areas. One size fits all does not work. In Wairarapa alone, a solution for Masterton will not be the same for Masterton, Greytown, nor Pirinoa, nor Tora. We need to take information and contextually apply it with our mātauranga, science, communities' lived experience and Mātauranga Māori going forward. Local water done well cannot happen without us as tangata whenua. Local water done well cannot be done without our communities. Local water done well can be nimble, agile, innovative and provide better solutions for our atua, our mokopuna to come, because we're going to leave them the mess that we create today. Kia mau kia para whenua mea. Kia mau ki ngā tangata o te whenua. Kia mau ki ngā mana whenua. Kia mau ki ngā tangata tiriti. Kia mau ki ngā rangatira apopo ngā mokopuna o roa ao. Kotahitanga tērā. Whakakotahitanga kia mau. Whakatakata hau ki te uru. Whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ke uta. Kia mā taratara ki tai. E ki aki ana te atakura. He teo, he huka, he hauhu. Ti hei, mauri ora.
Thank you, Amber. Questions from Amber? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Amber. I'm a little bit confused because through this process, Rangitane have supported Water Done Well, and you've come along here today and told us you're representing Rangitane. In your final paragraph, you talk about we. Can you just explain exactly who you're representing?
Yep, I'm representing Rangitane o Wairarapa Incorporated, but through that, we have been going out to whānau, hapu and our communities as well and bringing their whakaaro to this table.
I'm still a little bit confused.
We can have a chat afterwards if that helps, but I'm here as Tina Tupu for Rangitane o Wairarapa Incorporated.
Councillor Nelson.
Good Amber. So just reading your submission,
Yep.
You believe this can happen through an enhanced in-house model, talking to your community, talking to your to the people of Masterton in this area.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Tuda.
Kia ora, Auntie.
You said that you've consulted. Could you just list a couple of people that you've consulted with?
Yep, so I've been going out to whānau members. We've been going out to Papuai Marae trustees, been talking to Kohanui Marae trustees out there as well, been talking to our environmental team in terms of the trustees' portfolio, for Rangitane o Wairarapa Incorporated. There's a lot of whānau conversations. We've been having chats with them in terms of, there's been a few hui around why, so we've been asking them some of their feedback into this process as well. Yeah, cool, thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Robin?
Thank you. Correct.
Kia ora.
So at the start of your submission, you say that you support the enhanced status quo, but before the end of that paragraph, you talk about rather than doing the old solutions. To me, that seems a contradiction because the enhanced status quo is actually still the old solution. And I'd have to say that out of all the marae in the Wairarapa, there is only one marae that's connected to town supply, and this is really what this conversation is about, and that marae is Tarangi Māori marae, of which I'm the chair, and so we've not been availed to anything of any conversation with Rangitane or Wairarapa. And I do see at the end that you do state that it is on behalf of Rangitane or Wairarapa, and so you can tell me today that you've gone through a process at Rangitane or Wairarapa and they've got the approval of the board to
Yes.
present this.
Yes. Yeah. Can I?
Yes.
There were a few questions in there.
Yes.
We have gone through and done. We can't talk to every whānau before we do this because of the short time frames. We have tried to get out to as many as possible. However, I think what we were trying to say was that we don't need a new committee with incorporating in other groups to be able to do cool new stuff and innovative in the ways that we think about doing stuff. Just to throw a bit of a challenge on the table to think about how we're proceeding forward. It doesn't stop you if you are going to proceed with the Tararua option to still do cool new things and innovate and to be able to collaborate with your community and with whānau.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. That's why I was confused too, because our understanding is that iwi support the Tararua, the Wairarapa plus Tararua model, and yet you're representing Rangitane. So that's caught me by surprise, whereas you still prefer the Masterton enhanced model, is that correct?
The what, sorry? So we have put in saying that there are ways to be able to do it regardless of which way you want to go forward. We have brought to the table whānau voices, hapu voices from multiple across the board. As Robin pointed out, we can't speak to everyone, but this is the viewpoint that we've taken on from Tina Tapu, from multiple years of experience from our kaumātua, and bringing that to the table.
So in your submission it says you support the alternative option and Masterton only approach. However, it's not quite correct, is it? You just support either approach, but having some new ideas and new thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. The same stuff that that has gotten us here is not going to continue on. It's going to break things.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Any further questions? Councillor Lena.
Kia ora, Amber. Just trying to better understand your position as well. And the way I see it is you are preferring the enhanced status quo model because local Māori can have a more definite impact on that local situation and that local context as opposed to having to have fingers in 4 or 5 different pies.
Yeah, and when we went out and talked to whānau, they were most concerned that if we're starting to lump in other district councils, then we start to lose that voice. And so whānau were more concerned that, they're already struggling to have a voice at the table sometimes with the district councils. And so they felt like that it would just amalgamate it and push it up to one solution that's going to fit everyone, and that's not what we need.
So if the Y plus T model was the one that prevailed, would you be advocating that Māori, hapu, iwi from each area would focus on that area, and so you would have multiple groups from each area working on their area, or would you be advocating one Māori group to cover the whole 5 regions?
I think that's something that if that is going to be the way in which it advances, that group needs to think about how that's going to happen. Because the same solution for Tamaki Nui Aroa, Denivuk, is not going to be the same for Pirinoa. So this is to make us think about actually how do we collaborate with our whānau and hapu on the ground? How do we, not only just us, but the communities as well, because communities, their solutions are not going to be the same across the board. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amber. I really appreciate your submission. And we're deliberating on 21st of May.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kastu is the first one still not available. Okay, we could move on to the Masterton ratepayers and residents. Lynn? Lynn, you've got 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes for questions. You're being live streamed. Go for it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here on behalf of the Masterton Ratepayer and Residents Association, and we strongly support...
Could you speak up, please, Lynn? We do. There's been I don't know. It's been hard to hear him today for some reason.
Sorry. Good afternoon. Is that better?
That's better, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here on behalf of the Masterton Ratepayer and Residents Association, and we strongly support the standalone model for water service delivery. We agree water reform is needed. Everyone wants safe, modern and reliable infrastructure. But reform must be grounded in evidence, not just theory. Rushed decisions without clarity often lead to poor outcomes. Right now, there is just too much uncertainty. We understand that Council is under pressure from central government to deliver a water services plan by the 3rd of September, but our problem is the lack of detail, those hidden risks, and that's a red flag for us. We acknowledge the 60% public support for Y+T through Council's consultation process. But as your staff reminded us in the workshops, this wasn't a binding poll, and Council isn't obligated to follow it. And many of those Y+T submissions came with conditions. By contrast, our own membership survey, on a similar scale to Council's, indicated 65% of respondents supported the standalone model. These are engaged ratepayers. People have reviewed the documents, attended the workshops and asked questions. And their top 3 concerns: financial fairness, the lack of detail and the loss of local control. This isn't about resisting change. It's about making the right change, one that's fair, transparent and maintains local strong oversight. Wellington Water showed us what can go wrong. It started with high hopes as a regional model, but the Scott report highlighted a 71% rise in operating costs over 3 years, and the system has now become fragmented and unreliable. Many of our members fear Y+T could follow the same path and the same mistakes will be repeated. Under Y+T, Masterton becomes one of 11 towns with competing priorities. And as the last speaker just stated, one size does not fit all. Local decision making gets diluted and our community's voice is weakened because decisions will be made regionally. Standalone keeps decisions in local hands where they belong. One big concern is that there's just not enough information about how this whole thing will be governed or managed. No business would go into a merger without knowing who's really in charge. And right now, there are way too many unanswered questions. Even though the councils technically still own it, they don't really have control over how it's going to be run. On top of that, the pricing model isn't great for Masterton. The standardised pricing option actually ends up being the most expensive for us. The non-standardised one might seem cheaper for now, but there's no promise it'll stay that way. The Commerce Commission confirmed to me personally that harmonised pricing isn't required, yet it's still being used in Council's modelling. That opens the door to cross-subsidisation, where we could pay for upgrades elsewhere without a fair return. We acknowledge that not everyone opposes Y+T. 35% of our own survey results express conditional support for it, but again, only on the condition that strict safeguards on non-standardised pricing are in place. So right now, those safeguards are not enforceable. Masterton already carries a heavy load for regional services, like the hospital and the aerodrome, which others benefit from but don't contribute to. Many of our members see this proposal as another example of financial imbalance. Y+T allows for $30 million in additional borrowing for our council, which might be seen as a benefit, but there's no guarantee this will be directed towards essential infrastructure. It risks increased debt for low priority or non-essential projects and creates long-term liabilities without hard fiscal controls if water services are transferred to a new entity. And as we all know, Y+T isn't finalised yet. The devil is always in the detail, or in this case, the lack of detail. Governance, cost sharing, ring fencing, shareholder agreements, and asset control remain uncertain. Once we join a shared CCO, pulling out may be legally impossible or politically unpalatable, and not easily reversible. Yes, there might be an off-ramp further down the track, but once our assets and decision-making are embedded in a joint structure, pulling out may be too difficult and more costly to unwind. That's just too risky for us. On the flip side, the standalone model gives us a steady, flexible path. It doesn't shut the door on future regional partnerships, but lets us move forward with more control and fewer risks. We know what we're working with here, and MBC has the skills and experience to handle it. Let's retain our qualified and experienced staff and their relationships with contractors. As the Mayor said over the weekend, councils are stepping up and investing in infrastructure, more than we've been given credit for. And Masterton appears to be doing a pretty good job compared to other districts. At the end of the day, it's about earning and keeping the public's trust to get the job done. The standalone model is not a step backwards. It is a clear, capable and controllable model with known costs, retained decision-making and the ability to adapt in the future. It is a sensible step forward that even Federated Farmers and Wairarapa Property Investors Group support in their submissions, I noticed yesterday. Ultimately, it is about protecting Masterton's financial independence and ensuring ratepayers are not unfairly burdened by the decisions or debts of other councils. Given that Masterton has the highest levels of social deprivation of any of the districts and the lowest projected water charges, where is the fairness or equity in a CCO model where cross-subsidisation is being considered? We urge Council to pause and choose certainty and the current but enhanced status quo over theory and assumptions. Let's not lock Masterton into a poorly defined regional model with high risks and too many unknowns. We respectfully request that you make a decision that protects Masterton's ratepayers and our community's interests first, while we still can, until real safeguards are in place and the dust has settled. Ratepayers must retain a real and direct voice in decisions that affect their water, their money, and above all else, their future. Please vote for the standalone model. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Lynn, the first question I could just ask is how many responses did you get to your survey?
I don't think it's about, the MARA membership number as such, but to put it into proportionality for you, Gary, we surveyed all our registered members and we got about a third of those responded. It was less than we would have liked. It was under 150, but similar to council figures. But if you put that in proportion to council submissions, the number of your 139 submissions over the number of members that you have, 13,000 ratepayers, I think we had a larger response with a smaller proportion of members than council actually received.
Yeah, okay. one of the problems we have with this system is that we're only allowed to ask questions today, we're not allowed to make comments. But I know I've talked to staff regarding, and we will be covering some of the stuff you mentioned today in our deliberations report. We will be answering some of the things you raised, because you know there will be some of us who would have opposition to what you were saying. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, hi Lynn. Thanks for your submission. One of the main issues is non-subsidisation. Would your group support Y&T if part of the terms of agreement and everyone agreed on was non-subsidisation?
I can't speak for them today because we don't have that in place. I'm only speaking as a standalone based on the information we've got today. If you were going to bring that in, would that be going out for consultation to all the public?
Well, mind you though, your submission did say one of the reasons against Y&T was non-subsidisation. So given that you've already shared that information with us, do you think your group would support Y&T with non-subsidisation?
If it was the cheapest option for ratepayers, I would say yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Nelson.
So there's been lots of things around non-standardisation, but there's other things, many things that you mentioned in your submission that you are...
Question, Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, I've got a question. Were there many other things in your submission, I can't quite remember, that you spoke about apart from non-standardisation?
You mean the detail that's missing?
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail that's missing from that. You know, what is the makeup of the board, for example? You know, what is the strategic vision across all 4 councils? Do those 4 strategic visions match each other's? Are you all working together from a strategic level or not? What is the cost of ratepayers? How many ratepayers are we kicking out of our houses to pay for infrastructure in Martinborough or Dannevirke? Do you know, there's too many unknowns for us and too many variables. And that's why it's difficult to make a one size fits all here.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, Lynn, just one question for you that I ask. The ratepayers are aware that the enhanced standalone is not like it is now. We have to form a board, you have to establish it, and that's cost money.
Yes, I realise that, yeah.
You do realise that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for your submission, Lynn, and we'll be deliberating on May 21st. Thank you. Chris Blunden. Hi, Chris.
Hello, how are you?
7 minutes to present. Chris, 3 minutes for questions. You're being live streamed.
All good, thank you. Kia ora. Good afternoon, Mr Mayor, esteemed councillors and attendees here today. My name is Chris and I've lived in Masterton for the past year. What brought me to this amazing part of the country is family and the fantastic environment, and of course the amazing people who live in the Wairarapa. Until last November, I was employed by Salesforce, a large tech company that played a very big leading role in supplying Three Waters projects and their CRM database. The project enabled the establishment of my role in New Zealand, for which I'm grateful, but it was a pivotal moment in water reform, with the Masterton Council focusing on delivery of water services to our local community. This project piqued my interest and prompted me to respond. When the government of the day halted significant parts of the overall spending of projects, my role in New Zealand was disestablished and I was made redundant. It was a most unpleasant feeling, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Roll on several months and having time on your hands makes you consider what good looks like. For me, being an avid watcher of the Council's YouTube channel and looking at the depth of your people skills firsthand and the many varied topics which you discuss, I've seen that the local community has many talented SMEs, of which I feel strongly that the value of them coming together to support the combined bid would be overall positive. Personally, I feel it will be critical in the future that these subject matter experts combine their skills to act in a unified way. In effect, I personally believe that a shared resource model is necessary. If they don't collaborate now, experts move on, and intellectual property gaps will be created. And that, in my honest opinion, may result in significant holes in the plan for the water. I sense the best way to combat the natural attrition is to have a pool of people on hand to support our local needs working together as one. And what better way to achieve this than to combine the collective teams into a single unit? Living in a rural community is what we've chosen as citizens, and using the Three Waters model or the 10 entities blueprint, which is essentially the new Water Done Well strategy, means we can best respond to the changing needs over time. Looking at the proposed plan, I believe the Council needs to be bold. They need to make strong choices that will support us locally as a community. There's always the option to kick the can down the road, as so many successive governments seem to do, but my ask is for the councillors and the Chief Executive to plan now for the years ahead. I am worried, however, on average our local pipe lifespans are in the 30 to 50 year range and not less, and that begs the question for me, has our money been spent on ageing infrastructure properly before now? My gut says perhaps no, but I'm not privy to those facts, just what is ahead of us as a community. Therefore, my request, as I say, is to the Council to make decisions for the better good of us all. However, being parochial and looking after us alone, I don't believe will help. I do, however, feel that Masterton District Council needs to take the lead and do what is right for the rural community that we are proud to call home. However, please be mindful of budgets and spending caps. I do not advocate for the levels of borrowing the government of the day is allowing councils to undertake up to 500%, as I see, without proper governance, that may be a millstone around all of our necks. Instead of playing red and blue politics, I wish the country had developed a plan for water using the old Three Water Plan well before now, as increased delay only makes these decisions seemingly political, whereas they should be made for the good of the people, by the people. So in terms of why we're here today, I wanted to say you have my vote for a locally combined option. I don't believe Masterton should go it alone, although there is an argument that I sense over time dwindling resources will make the task harder, and it always pays to play smarter and not harder. As my lovely mum used to say to me, many hands make light work, and I believe a joined up local approach would be best for our community. I hope the Council, the Chief Executive, the Mayor and Councillors advocate now for the changes we need. I didn't come here today to be negative, but to ask for positive, accelerated change. Change, as we all recognise, is inevitable. It's more important for your team to consider how to implement it and how to move forward. Procrastination, as we all know, is the thief of time. Change needs to be managed, and I ask you please to make that positive decision now to benefit the to benefit the residents of the Wairarapa for the years ahead. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. Chris, any questions for Chris? Councillor Helena?
Thank you, Chris.
Hi.
Thanks for your interest. I'm just trying to sort of unpack your main argument for the Y+T model, and what I'm hearing is quite a bit is around retaining that sort of intellectual property, expertise, and making sure there's plenty of that to go around.
Yeah.
Which you think will be a risk with a standalone. Is that your main argument?
Yeah, it is in the main. As separate entities and organisations, when an individual leaves, it leaves a hole. When it comes to Three Waters, that hole will be quite big because effectively you need a lot of deep subject matter expertise to fill that critical gap. What I sense is when you're combined as an entity, you'll have depth and breadth in others. So whilst a loss may negatively impact the overall theme, the push, in the short term, you'll have others of a similar stature, understanding and expertise to complete the job and the task at hand. It's, a team is as good as the backbone that you've got in the team. And if you've got a very small team and you take the backbone out of it, then you increase the risk to you and us as residents.
Councillor Nelson?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I think at the beginning of your submission you mentioned the millstone of increased debt. What did you mean by that? What excess debt?
Sure. When I read the documents and saw effectively that the government was looking at attributing up to, I think, a 500% spend that local councils could effectively implement to provide this plan, I personally felt that number was too high, and I don't feel that burden should be placed on council. I've always felt that it should be a national debt to support the country, not as individuals. And whilst I recognise and understand that Masterton per se do it way better than other regions. It's still a big number to carry, and I didn't think it was in the best interests of Masterton or the region to go up to that full 500% cap. So I guess, be careful, look after the pennies, because then the pounds look after themselves.
But that is a concern of yours.
It is a concern, but, nobody enters into anything without risk, and it's a risk that needs to be considered and taken care of as part of the process.
Thanks for your time, Liz.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much for your submission. We deliberate on the 21st. Thank you so much. Sustainable Wairapa. Erica?
It's online, Eric.
Oh, they're coming online, are they? Okay. You there, Erica?
You can't hear me, but I just said I am.
Yeah, can't hear you. Can't hear you now.
Kia ora. Thank you for...
You've got 7 minutes, Erica. We got 3 minutes for questions.
Okay, I'll make a start. Thank you. Thank you for receiving and reading the initial submission from Sustainable Wairarapa Incorporated. Sustainable Wairarapa has read each of the 4 consultation documents. Each has revealed different information. For communities to actually understand the complexity of the local proposal and make an informed decision, it is important that all 4 councils produce one set of metrics that can be directly compared. The creation of the Tararua Wairarapa CCO will be one of the most complex local water done well operations in the country. With a mix of communities from very small, such as Castle Point and Ngawi, through to Masterton, a town of approximately 30,000 people, as you know. The operation will also manage water for manufacturing, some primary production and solar farms across the region. Each of these mini installations has operating idiosyncrasies, which will make it costly to integrate into a single entity and maintain in the future, potentially limiting the ability to reach the economies of scale required to financially benefit the water users within the proposed CCO. The CCO will be funded by a low population base that has also the poorest in the Wellington region. From this perspective, are the councils confident that the financial forecast for the proposed CCO will attract and hold onto appropriately qualified and experienced staff and fund the different and varied operations? Is there enough scale to separate ourselves from Wellington in a manner that has suitable staff to manage, plan and implement the CCO? And just to clarify on that, we acknowledge that Wellington has a fairly simple structure compared to the proposed one here, and they have the access to experienced and qualified staff, which we might not as a region be able to attract. Only the South Wairarapa District Council has identified the level of debt it will be transferring to the proposed Tararua Wairarapa CCO. This raises 2 further questions. How much debt will other councils be transferring to the new entity? How much debt will the new entity be carrying before it even starts? This is a really key decision-making tool for people of these communities, and it should be made clear to them. The New Zealand government has stated clearly that these CCOs are the preferred model for local water done well. How is the New Zealand government supporting the proposed entity to make it financially viable? Speaking plainly, what money is the New Zealand government contributing to get this entity off the ground, and what conditions will come with any financial support? It was only reported today as a byline that in stuff that many people across New Zealand feel they don't have enough information to make a good decision around these proposed CCOs. And as a follow-up, it was in the Taranaki Times Age that the two smaller district councils in Taranaki felt that it was amalgamation by surrender. So there are other regions in New Zealand that are going through the same process, as you know, and many feel like they are not getting the information required to make a really good decision. So you're not alone. So, in separating water debt from the rest of individual councils' operations, all the councils have identified that this will allow the proposed CCO to increase their debt to 500 times their operating revenue. A level of debt that has little chance of ever being paid back, and forcing the CCO's customers to servicing the interest through their water invoices. Considering again that Wairarapa has a small population with low income residents, where is the social equity in invoicing these people for interest on corporate debt? Separating water debt out from the rest of the individual council's operations will also reduce their debt initially. It has also been pointed out, however, by South Wairarapa District Council's consultation document that this provides the opportunity for the councils to borrow on other council operations, ultimately keeping their debt levels the same or increasing them. This doubling down on debt for operations will increase rates by double billing. While all four councils show on a graph that the projected rates with the CCO will be lower than maintaining the status quo, Sustainable Wairarapa is suspicious of the accuracy of these figures. The only way that ratepayers will know is when we receive our first invoice. Sustainable Wairarapa is concerned that the environment has not featured in the proposals for the new structure. Local water done well operation has the potential to have a profound effect on the local and regional environment, and any new entity should be working to improve the current situation. For example, where consent extensions allow the discharge of wastewater into rivers beyond publicly and environmentally acceptable quantities. But who will be measuring the environmental impact and change? Where do water races fit into the new structure? Where do aquifers fit into the new structure? Where does the potential for reservoirs fit into the new structure? How will individual councils work with the proposed CCO? An example being wastewater operations. As oxidation ponds fill with sludge, whose responsibility will it be to solve that issue? The water will be the CCO's, but who owns the sludge and who owns the solution to the sludge? For example, a biogas fermenter such as Waste Care in Auckland. The proposed documents focus little on the makeup of the CCO board. There are four councils willing to bring in outside expertise to develop the structure to deliver the complex operation. Sustainable Wairarapa does not support the use of consultants and contractors, as has been the practice with Wellington Water. Sustainable Wairarapa desires an efficient, professional water authority without the petty local patch politics that have plagued the Wairarapa for decades. Point scoring rather than give and take. In summary, Sustainable Wairarapa supports the Tararua Wairarapa CCO in principle, but there's not enough information about the current proposal to make an informed decision for new, highly complex entities. How can we, as a community, develop the trust that the CCO will deliver with too little information? Our hope in supporting the principle of the CCO is that there will be less bureaucratic and more consultative, and that they will deliver a better and cheaper water service than the current local council operations. Moving forward for Sustainable Wairarapa to convert our in-principle support to confirmed support, our membership needs a complete set of information from each authority that is directly comparable, including but not limited to the transferable debt on water operations, leakages and current consent information. The potential structure for the CCO board and right through to operational level. Relatively accurate future operational costs and upfront benefits of the CCO to the community. Regardless of the New Zealand government push for a CCO, what is the benefit that will pull in low-income regions? Borrowing and economies of scale have been mentioned, but will the service be demonstrably better than our current offering, and who will measure this proposed improvement? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. Erica, so I said before, one of the problems with this system we have that we can't answer those questions here, but I know that our staff over here are busy writing all those questions that you've asked, and in our deliberations report we'll do our best to cover those questions.
Fantastic, thank you.
There is still room here for questions from the councillors, so is there any questions from council? Yes, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. Thanks, Erica. Just with yours, thank you for sharing as well. So your support of Y plus T is conditional of all that information that that you highlighted at the end of your submission. That's the condition of the support. And if that support is that information isn't there, you'd support an enhanced model?
We can't support something we don't know what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Holmes.
Another question, Erica, was that you suggested or you pointed out double billing. Can you just go on that? Because there's two separate, you won't be billed from the district council, you'll be billed by the CCO. Could you just highlight that?
Yep, sure. Okay, that was referring directly to interest payments.
Right.
And the fact that transferring debt from the council so the council can borrow more debt just simply means that we'll be paying two lots of interest as members of the community.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Erica, for your commission. You came through loud and clear, and we're deliberating on the 21st.
Okay, great. Just so you're aware, I did send through a copy of my kōrero today to the council.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, we move on to
Thank you.
Bob Alsop. G'day, Bob.
Do I have to stand here?
You sit there,
How
mate.
can I sit?
You get 7 minutes. Yeah, you can sit. 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes for us to ask you questions. You'll be in live stream, so you're famous. And deliberations are on May the 21st.
Okay, right. Thanks for this time, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. I don't want to read everything I've read out everything I've written. I just want to reiterate two items and propose a third. The two items are long-term ownership, and the second one is reducing the rates burden on homeowners, a little bit of what Erica said. And the third item I want to look at is operational and capital charging. Now, under ownership, the organisation diagram that I found belatedly from the Tararua District Council, look, you may or may not have seen it, is this one here. And what it's got the councils at the top, then it's got the shareholder council, and then it's got a water organisation board. The cynical part of me gets a little bit worried. There's a two-step separation between the four councils and the OE, operating enterprise. My cynical view is that the councils are being set up to have their water services privatised. The diagram shows an arrangement that would work if the OE and its board were privatised. The results of this is that the homeowners would get an increased rate, or cost would increase to them, and the council would lose all control. And that scares me because it's like the electricity bills we all get right now. It's like what's happening with airports and so forth that's been privatised in the past. My request is that councils seriously consider being aware of this and make privatisation or even partial privatisation next to impossible. Otherwise my grandchildren are going to carry the can. In respect of reducing the rates burden on homeowners, there's 4 things I want to look at. The first one is bureaucratic structure. The second one is legislative quality and price control. The third one is to do with in-house repairs and maintenance and capital works capability. And the fourth one is consenting process. The object of this exercise is partially to reduce the increase or minimise the increased rate or tax burden to homeowners. The bureaucratic structure that's been proposed has 2 tiers between the council and the operating company. The question I ask, why do we need 2? It's doubling up on the costs of having 2 sets of, what are essentially 2 sets of boards. I'm sure we can do with 1, and I've explained all that. The second item is legislative quality and price control. If you look at it, there are in our own documentation, there are 3, but I figured out there's a 4th one. There are 4. It's page 5 in the Masterton District Council consultation document. There are actually 4 organisations that are involved in quality control, legislative control and price control. If you take drinking water, one everybody's worried about, there's the Water Services Authority, the Commerce Commission and the Regional Council. For water pricing, there's the Commerce Commission and the Auditor General, because the CCO, and I call it Enterprise, would have to be audited by the Auditor General. So they're going to check on how the prices are arrived at, or the council can at least ask for that to happen. The next one is storm water systems and wastewater systems. There's the Water Services Authority, the Commerce Commission and the Regional Authority. Again, 3 bodies looking over our shoulder, all putting their hand out for payment. My point is that both the Water Services Authority and the Commerce Commission costs should be borne by central government, not ratepayers. Now, that's a point that the last speaker actually spoke about. The legislative oversight is already done by the Regional Council. They probably need to get their act together. I don't know. Local councils already pay for that. Why should we pay more? I'm thinking about all us ratepayers. I'm not worried about too much else. Then we come to in-house repairs and maintenance, capital works capability. Now, all 4 councils had the same statement. There are 3 options. We can do it in-house, we can do a hybrid, that is in-house and outsource, or we can outsource. My comment with outsourcing is that it seems to be over time, and it doesn't take too long before it starts costing us more. And don't forget, these are private enterprises. They have to make a profit. If they don't make a profit, they go bust. Well, yes, a council-run operation doesn't have to make a profit, and any surplus it makes goes back into the council, into the business that it's doing. So therefore, by actually having all of those aspects, the repairs and maintenance and capital works capability in-house, means that we get to retain 10% of what it might normally cost us if we outsourced it. To my estimation, there's about $500 million worth of works to be done. 10% of 500 million is 50 million. It's a good lotto win, if you want to put it that way. And in that case, major savings accrue to homeowners. Then there's the added economic benefits to local communities. There's another benefit we forget is that in case of emergency, we have in-house abilities to help us out. We don't have to be dependent on a whole lot of everybody else being free to do the work for us. My fourth point in saving ratepayers is the consenting process. I don't know if any of you have gone through a consenting process, but it seems to me that there's a lot of time wasted. You get 20 working days. If there's not enough information, then it goes out, once you supply the new information, it's another 20 days. Now we're dealing with 3 organisations, not 2. So therefore, the consenting process has to be seriously looked at because there are lots of hidden costs when builders are and people developers doing stuff have to wait for things to occur. Interest payments continue. There's cost inflation. Right, so these things need to be considered as hidden costs and need to be worked against.
30 seconds, Bob.
Sorry?
30 seconds.
Thanks. Okay, operational and capital charging. I know this is an item that's come up in the media, and I'd like to say simply that if you have a look at the way our electricity charges come, we get a single bill and it's got 2 parts to it. How much electricity we used and the capital charge. I'm sure we can do the same thing for water, wastewater and operations and repairs, and have people end up with 3 lines on their rate bill, one which comes from the operating enterprise, which has got 3 components. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Any questions? What I'm hearing, Bob, is, am I correct, is that you're supporting the Wairarapa Taurua, but you've got quite a few questions.
Yes, I think that's what I said in my written submission, is I do support it, but there are concerns, real big concerns, that if you don't answer them, then I think we will lose the trust of the populace, the people who you're here to serve.
Really appreciate that, Bob. We deliberate on the 21st.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We were going to have afternoon tea, we're not, because we had a late lunch. So, Robbie, Helena. Thank you, Robbie. You know the rules, Robbie, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, live stream.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here today to express my strong support for the enhanced Masterton only option for water services and to outline serious concerns with the proposed Wairarapa Taurua option. I'd like to start by acknowledging the excellent work done by Masterton District Council. Since 2014, 11.5% of the water pipe network and 16% of the sewer pipe network has been renewed or relined at a cost of $18.1 million. These are actual figures of work completed. And it shows that our Council Water Services team is well able to make good progress on water infrastructure with current staffing levels. Looking ahead, Council have planned over the next few years $8.4 million to be spent on larger water storage ponds at Kaituna and $7.9 million for a new treated water reservoir to meet future demand. Currently, our Homebush wastewater plant, which was built in 2012, is at only 50% capacity, which ensures sufficient capacity through to 2034 when the planned wastewater expansion is due. Our proven track record from the previous upgrade in 2012 gives me confidence that the future expansion will be managed responsibly. In contrast, I want to raise serious concerns about the Wairarapa Taurua joint entity. The proposal is based on theoretical modelling only. It assumes 12.2% cumulative efficiency improvements from year 3, which is economies of scale, and yet the scale is only 2.3. It gives no real evidence or real-world examples to back it up.
The review of Wellington Water done by Scott Consulting on October 24 advised that one of the main aims of their review, and I quote, to provide information to support decision-making by councils on whether to develop a joint delivery model with other councils in the region. In 2014, Wellington Water began full of optimism with a very high calibre team to lead their new entity, but 10 years on, although they had achieved the scale they wanted, the operational costs have spiralled upwards by 71% over the last 3 years, fragmented accounting systems, and these now require major investment. Wellington Water has some operational differences, I understand, I get that, but it is comparable water utility solely dedicated to providing water services, just like the Wairarapa Tararua proposal. Surely we need to hear about the successes, the challenges and the failures which have occurred in a real-life joint water entity, so we can consider this as well as the theoretical forecast in the consultation document. The document claims to compare apples with apples, but in reality it is comparing Masterton's actual performance with best-case modelling guesses for a new entity. It's not a fair or reliable comparison in my view. Forming a successful CCO from scratch, I agree with that, Erica on that, this could be the most complex one in the whole country. 4 parochial councils to serve multiple locations will be extremely difficult to achieve. The Wellington Water example is a sobering reminder. There's substantial risk with the Wairarapa Tararua proposal. Let's talk about costs. Urban water costs in Masterton make up about 40% of our total operating expenses. During the workshops, Council advised about 25 staff will no longer be required. Staff did not mention whether the rates will decrease or by how much. Do our councillors know? It's a rhetorical question, by the way. Under the new entity, it appears, from my reading, LGFA have proposed a rates reduction of $300 per householder per year. Currently, my rates bill is $3,500 per year. The modelling tells me the water costs will be an extra $2,200, but my savings will be $300 per year. My overall cost will now be $5,400, an increase of $1,900 per year for me, or 62%. And that's before price standardisation. Standardisation will be a constant threat for Masterton shareholders. It's apparent from the Council's workshops and the consultation document there are many unknowns about the new entity which will be formed. The general guidelines only are given. There's a lack of detail regarding the makeup and the size of both the independent board of directors and the joint council shareholder and iwi committee. This is a major disadvantage of the Wairarapa Tararua proposal. If the number of water connections is the basis for allocating the shareholding numbers, Masterton shareholders will be a minority in the new entity. The 4 councils will retain ownership but not operational control. The Commerce Commission is responsible for regulating pricing and service performance for water entities under local water done well. With our autonomy lost, we will be vulnerable to any legislative changes. If a caveat without a time frame is legally binded into the Constitution, that is the founding document of the CCO, it cannot be overturned by the CCO. It can only be overturned by a super vote of 75%. This gives Masterton shareholders a level of protection. However, with Masterton being in a minority position, price standardisation will be a constant concern. A Wairarapa Tararua water entity will increase the overall cost to Masterton ratepayers by a very big margin. If you want the best for your constituents, be they Māori, lower wage residents, pensioners or single parents, the best way to help them is a safe vote for the enhanced Masterton only option. In conclusion, the enhanced Masterton only model offers certainty, proven results, local control and a clear financial pathway. The Wairarapa Tararua model is based on optimistic assumptions and with a very real risk of high increases and loss of local voice. We have autonomy, we have the capability, we have the proven track record. Let's not throw that away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robbie. And again, I just reiterate that you just throw up a lot of thoughts there, which will be taken down by staff and will be hopefully answered in the deliberations. We're one of those things where we're not allowed to make comments here regarding your submission.
Oh, you can't make comments.
Would like to. Is there any questions? No questions. Thank you so much, Robbie. And we will be deliberating on May the 21st.
Thank you.
Lynn Patterson, is she available?
It's not due till 3:25 on Teams, but it's booked in scheduled.
Okay, is Jamie here? Jamie Fry? Peter Debney then. What about Peter? Peter, do you mind coming early, Peter? Oh, absolutely.
I have brought a copy for some use.
Welcome, Pete. 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes for questions. And you're being live streamed.
My name is Peter Debney. I am a Masterton resident and a ratepayer. My understanding is that the local water well done proposal aims to find a better way of managing providing safe drinking water, treating wastewater and dealing with stormwater. The proposed combined council organisation, CCO, option of Masterton, Carlton, South Wairarapa and Tararua joining together to form a jointly owned council-controlled water organisation based on my research is the only affordable and sustainable option when taking into consideration the long-term future of not only Masterton but also our wider Wairarapa communities. Our four councils are historically, culturally and geographically connected and face similar challenges and share iwi ties. Accepting that, as outlined in the CCO proposal, each council would have different investment requirements and cost of services and capacity to fund the investment required that would importantly retain regional differences to ensure that proposed changes would reflect the direct cost to each district. This will demand open and honest consultation on part of all four district councils. Importantly, the CCO board would be held accountable to all four councils. My understanding is that the projected costs are based on water charges not being standardised. For Masterton residents, there may be an initial increase in the estimated cost per connection that in the longer term would achieve an overall reduction in cost per connection. Importantly, the legislative changes would allow the CCO levels debt to go to 500% of operating revenue. This greater debt capacity would enable the board established to manage the greater flexibility in its operation, funding, management and service delivery on the longer term. I understand that the revenue from and delivery of these water services will be separated from the territorial authorities' other functions and activities, be ring-fenced. A portion of the water services operating costs would be identified as corporate overheads. The revenue that would pay for these overheads would move to the newly formed CCO. The four councils will be left with the task of reducing their respective overheads, effectively downsizing their cooperative costs, achieving across the board significant savings. The bottom line is that the CCO must be financially sustainable within 10 years. Accepting that the local water well done reforms are the New Zealand government's latest approach to managing drinking water, wastewater and stormwater services, the aims of these reforms are to ensure water services are financially sustainable, meet quality standards and improve infrastructure. From my research, these current reforms differ from previous water management policies in several key ways. Unlike the Three Waters reform, which proposed centralising water services under large regional entities, this new approach by the current government allows councils to retain ownership and decision-making power over their water assets. Councils must also demonstrate how they will meet the new financial quality and economic standards while ensuring long-term affordability to ratepayers. These reforms introduce a new economic regulation regime overseen by the Commerce Commission, ensuring fair pricing and service quality. Councils have a deadline to submit water services delivery plan by September 2025, outlining how they will meet the water quality and infrastructure standards. The CCO option addresses all of these issues: local control, financial sustainability, regularity changes overseen by the Commerce Commission, and clarity of when and how councils must implement the water service delivery plan. As a comparison, these local water well-done reforms in New Zealand can be compared to international water management models in several ways. Unlike England and Wales, where water services are privatised, the New Zealand reforms maintain local council ownership while allowing councils to choose different service delivery models. Similar to Australia, New Zealand is introducing economic regulation through the Commerce Commission to ensure fair pricing and service delivery. Countries like Germany and Singapore have long-term investment strategies of water infrastructure, which New Zealand is now emphasising through mandatory water services delivery plans. These reforms prioritise public consultation similar to the Scandinavian countries, where local communities have played a significant role in shaping those community policies, just as you're hearing today is allowing it to occur here. Different countries manage their water services in several ways, reflecting the unique environment, economic and regulatory conditions. And for example, in Germany, water management is decentralised, with municipalities responsible for water supply and wastewater treatment. Strict environmental regulations ensure high water quality. In Singapore, a country that has a highly integrated water management system, including desalination, water recycling and rainwater collection to maximise their resources. And those who have been to Singapore will understand why. Water services, in Australia, water services are managed at the state level with a mix of public and private entities overseeing supply and infrastructure. In the United States, as it was before Mr. Trump, water management varied by state, with some regions relying on private utilities while others have municipal control. In the Netherlands, it's known for its advanced flood management systems. The country has specialised water boards that oversees water quality and infrastructure, the step we're looking to move here. Now, in conclusion, ratepayers have been burdened with an accumulating costs across all four councils, maintaining the existing, and times ageing and inefficient management of this vital resource, which is currently being duplicated across all four district councils. It is my considered opinion that the cost effectiveness of this preferred CCO option would be the most affordable in the long term. Undoubtedly, investment will occur, investment now will incur some short-term pain, but produce long-term gains across all four current district councils for the benefit of current and future ratepayers, not only in Masterton, but encompassing all communities across the Wairarapa. I just trust that I'll be here in 10 years' time to enjoy that achievement. Ratepayers deserve the leadership by Council to urgently progress this option. The Council in whom ratepayers can have confidence, who look to the future beyond their own term in office, in planning for and securing our community's longer-term future. Now, with this hearing's endorsement, I hope the District Council, the councillors today, you need to urgently progress the CCO proposal and future-proof this vital resource.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Gary.
Any questions for Peter? No questions, Peter. Thank you very much for your comprehensive submission. Oh, sorry, Councillor Helena.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, a bit of a compelling case for Y plus T, and we can hear your passion coming out there. If for some reason the Y plus T model couldn't guarantee non-standardisation of pricing, would that change your thinking?
It would seriously challenge the viability of the proposal, yes. There's no question that the key to how this is going to be put in place is going to be how the four councils and representations come together and to go through that dialogue process in an honest and open way and addressing some of the issues that have been addressed already today about the indebtedness of existing services and how they'll be serviced, what will be brought to the table at that particular point in time. And it's not going to be an easy process. There's no question about it. But if we're open and honest and we can look ahead to see where the contingencies can be addressed, we can do it. The standardisation of going to the extreme of considering that I'd be paying the same rates for use of water as an industry accumulating whatever profits and they have, to me would be grossly unfair on individual and private ratepayers. And if that was to be agreed by where, I just cannot believe in this day and age, with the information that's available and the international research, and I've only just brushed at the surface to what I've shared with you today. If you had another hour and a half, I'll go back through some of those for you and give you the structures. They went through those structures. The private entities in some cases was a fallback to take the responsibility away from territorial authorities, but in many cases has proved to be a bit of a liability, a millstone around those communities. And I'm looking around the table and looking at that community today and the work you've done to come this far, knowing the government has a deadline set already across the country. Now, we are not alone in considering what we're having to put in place. This is happening in every other district council across the country. And some are coming together and deciding how they can best bring those sources together. We are unique, the fact that we've got a geographic location within the Wairarapa and four councils that can bring that together. And then there's the economy of scale of, if that comes to it, becomes the process to go forward, of how we staff and utilise that, and that's where the whole process of cost savings and sharing of debts and so forth would need to be addressed. But yes, I don't think, Tom, there's any one answer, but standardisation, I would like to believe, is not a possibility.
Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate your... and we'll be deliberating on May the 21st, Peter. No doubt you'll keep a close eye on that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We now go to Lynn Patterson. Lynn is on.
I'd like to believe it's not a possibility.
Hi, Lynn.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Lynn. Lynn, you've got 7 minutes, 3 minutes for questions. And,
I can guarantee I won't take 7 minutes, Mayor.
I've never heard you speak less than 7 minutes, Lynn. Okay, go for it.
Thank you. Kia ora tātou. Good to be here. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I just make a comment about my submission, just a couple of points. And it was really about my and a lot of the community's desire that the Wairarapa councils amalgamate. And in doing so, I felt then that the three waters were better aligned to Wairarapa. That's only one of the reasons. Whether we amalgamate by choice or whether it's forced upon us will depend on what happens in the future. But noting the current debacle over libraries, and I think some of you around the table will remember the dog £100 issue. I can't see it happening in a hurry. So really, I think the point from my submission, and then I'll just raise a couple of other points, were that Three Waters doesn't stand alone, that it affects a lot of what we do, what is done across local government, and in particular, we have the Wairarapa Combined District Plan, and a sideline to that is things like our water strategy and etc., etc. So to me, adding in Tararua adds a further complex dimension and therefore costs. But I've just made some notes. So one of the most important decisions we'll make for our district in decades was Council's key message in the consultation document. Yes, an important decision which will affect present and future rate generation of Masterton ratepayers. The constitution process only gave two options, which limited, in my view, people's choices. Was only one or the other. I still ponder as to why Wellington or a Wairarapa options weren't included. Such an important decision in decades, you had the information on hand to consult but chose not to do so. When you limit people's choices to two options, and one of those options is status quo, or for Three Waters enhanced status quo, do we consider that's a really a good consultation process given the magnitude of the decisions that have to be made? As per my submission, I did not tick an option, and I do not support a Wairarapa Tararua CCO. So by default, I suppose that leaves me with Masterton standalone. I would have liked to have seen what a Wairarapa only option would have looked like. There are many unknowns still, and looking at the work still to be done from the DIA website, we've got a commitment agreement, shareholders agreements, transfer agreements, and a constitution, all of which will have an effect on Masterton residents and ratepayers. It is the process, and I get that, but I am concerned that any decisions made through your deliberations is only just the beginning. If you cannot guarantee no standardisation through legal mechanisms, and given you have to act in the best interest of present and future Masterton generations, it's your statutory obligation, you really don't have a choice. The graph on page 28 of your consultation document sums it up. I understand that there is an off-ramp further on, and possibly two, and it is my hope that you don't leave it till then to exit, as that would incur significant costs to Masterton ratepayers for no return. And it also would be unfair to neighbouring councils, particularly so if the Wairarapa Tararua model isn't viable without Masterton connections. And I don't know the answer to that. Presumably that work has been done. So my message is really, please err on the side of caution, as there is too much at stake. Be bold, be courageous, and if in doubt, opt out now, and support standalone unless there is a legal, watertight guarantee to no standardisation. So that's it from me, Mayor Gary. I don't think I took anywhere near 7 minutes.
Oh, I don't know, you're pretty close. Okay, Lynn, any questions for Lynn? No questions, Lynn, thank you so much, and we're deliberating on the 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Jamie Falloon here?
He's just outside, yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, Jamie, just take a seat, mate. Jamie, I notice you've got, you're still doing the Wairarapa Federated Farmers one, right?
Yeah, been greedy, yep.
And then you're doing your own.
There goes.
So we'll just take one after the other.
I'll start
with the Federated Farmers one first. You've got 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes to questions, and then we'll go to deliberations on the 21st. So if you could do your Wairarapa Federated Farmers one first, that would be great.
Okay, no worries. Afternoon all. My name's Jamie Falloon. I'm past president of Federated Farmers and a sheep and beef farmer from Bideford in the Wairarapa, in Masterton, sorry. Fed's submission's pretty simple. Obviously, most of our members aren't affected by local water done well, apart from the ones who get water through the Wainuia water scheme, those at Tanui and those who use the wastewater system at Castle Point. Not many, there'll be a few Feds members at Riversdale and obviously Castle Point. So I just checked through the proposal, and just to make sure that those areas, whether they were included in local water done well or not, there's very brief mention of them. It basically says in the questioning that those areas are going to be ring fenced and that their costs would be standardised and left there, which seems a little bit at odds with all the rest of the work done on the CCO and obviously change of overhead costs and so on and so forth like that. So the Fed's submission, the guts of it is very simple. It's basically providing assurance to those members who are on those different water schemes that their costs would be no different under the CCO than what they are now under the Masterton only option. And also 2 other parts to it. The first one being the clarity around any impact on rates of rural ratepayers with the Masterton option versus the CCO option, because it talks about a reduction in overheads. And secondly, that rural ratepayers aren't paying for any of the changes, if there are any changes, towards a new model from the old model. Thank you.
Okay, have we got any questions for Jamie on the Federated Farmers one? None, Jamie? Okay, Jamie, you can move into your own.
Righto, that was quick. I'd like to say they've done a few of these now. Masterton District Council, Greater Wellington, quite a few. They're always interesting because you put a lot of time and effort into it. You hope that everything's been read and you hope that you get some decent questions from people around what you've put in there. This is, like it says in the consultation document, the biggest decision that Masterton has to make in decades. And so for a decision of that magnitude, the process followed is distinctly average, to say that without offending anyone. Now, it was a good consultation process in that there was plenty of advertising around it, there was plenty of work and communication saying that this was happening and that people needed to get involved and stuff like that. But if you looked at the documentation, it seemed that you were going to get a better deal by changing, so therefore why would you bother looking at having anything to do with it? Now, in the process of working through this and listening to what's been said, I found that it was very hard to find the numbers to show you what actually was going to happen and what the impact was of a decision of this magnitude in terms of what's going to happen. So, not being a urban ratepayer, but being a ratepayer at Riversdale, I was sort of concerned with this. But being a Masterton District Council resident and ratepayer, I was concerned about the direction that this process might be taking this district and what impact it would have overall of the district if we went to a CCA model versus a Masterton alternative model. So I thought I'll spend some time on this and I'll have a look at it. And so I've written you a submission. The submission's got some quite clear points in there about questions which I've found which need more clarification and answers. But it's a very unusual process to merge 4 business units this way. And that's essentially what you're doing. You're bringing 4 water systems from 4 different councils into one business. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen a business merger anywhere which goes this process where it's like, agree that it's a great idea, bind ratepayers to it happening, and then go, we're going to negotiate and see what happens. Now, if you have a process where you've got the risk of standardisation, which is the biggest risk of this process in here, then when you look at the numbers, you can't vote yes for this. because you've got no control once you've agreed, yes, that you're going to go into a CCO model, that actually you're not going to agree to standardisation. Masterton doesn't have a majority of ratepayers of connections versus the other three. Masterton has the cheapest connections. Masterton has done the best with its water of the other four councils over the last 30 odd, 40 odd years. And this process of putting it into a CCO is giving away all the work which Masterton has done over those times. And one point which came really clear to me was when I asked David a question at the consultation and said, with the modelling assumptions, what have you done around debt repayments? And because I'm not an urban ratepayer, I don't have any idea about how Homebush is paid for or worked for. I don't have water on my rates bill. So it was a question, not trying to catch anyone out, it was a question to actually find out and understand about it. Now, if I heard David's answer correctly, depreciation, when you borrow money for a wastewater project in Masterton, you pay it off over the term of the consent of that wastewater project. And that's how I understood the answer to it. So I said to David, has that same assumption been used in the CCO model? And the answer was no. So you're not even comparing apples with apples. You're comparing apples with oranges. And so the numbers which are in the CCO around those average prices per connection are irrelevant to the terms of what Masterton versus what the CCO is. So on that basis, you've got to say no. But the key issues around this proposal, a very unusual business thing, is that there's a lot of talk, there's no talk about culture, there's no talk about the culture of that organisation, there's no talk about the social issues and the social changes which will happen, the loss of the ability to, the governance structure is an independent board, which therefore doesn't represent any of the councils. It answers on KPIs to a shareholders' council, which is made up of obviously elected and appointed members from the different councils. Now, that puts the ratepayer further and further away, or the water user further and further away from being able to have any influence or ability on what's going on and what they're getting. They need to be charged. There's nothing about standardisation except for that the Commerce Commission needs to make sure it's fair and effective and clear. Well, it doesn't matter if it's effective. The number is the number. If you standardise it, you standardise it. Maybe you can have a process of reducing it over time, but standardisation means everyone pays the same price. For Masterton ratepayers, based on my analysis, that basically means a doubling of their water charges. Privatisation. Nothing around privatisation. Leave it all up to us. We're going to negotiate all of this. There's nothing in there around privatisation. There's no ability for councils to opt out of it. None of this has been provided in the consultation document. And those are all questions which are really important and should have been discussed by councils and done first. If this process had gone with a business plan, had gone with discussing all these processes and how it would work and what the costs are, then you would have looked at it and said this makes sense because there's efficiencies and ease of staff and a whole lot of all the reasons which have been given for why this is such a great idea. There's nothing around the strategy. There's nothing around, what is the water? Is it minimum drinking water standards? Is it all water to land? Is it stormwater that we don't get any floods in 100 years? There's none of that information in there. All this apparently is going to be negotiated and discussed with therefore no ability of the ratepayer and the water user to have any idea of what these costs are going to be. So all these things which I've picked up just reading this raise red flags. And so they make it a very difficult decision to make on that basis. Sorry, I can't look and read at the same time, so I haven't got the old progressive, so put my glasses back on. The biggest plus of this whole thing on the basis of the consultation is you can borrow up to 500% of your revenue. Lordy, we all know that borrowing money is easy. It's the payment which is the difficult bit. And the fact that these numbers don't include a lot of debt repayment, because I've looked through them, it's very hard to see the debt repayments in there, means that basically we're just spending a whole lot of money and putting everyone in more hock for the future. There's, when you get to the numbers, so there was a document released, a list of spreadsheets and stuff, which was released from the question and answer session. So I've gone here to look through that, and I'm struggling to see how the numbers add up. So, on page 28 of your local water done well consultation, it says year 35-36, the Masterton cost alone is going to be $2,513. If I go through that spreadsheet and look at the 35-36, The average Masterton cost I calculate is $1,866. Now, it says something in there that GST is included in the Masterton numbers, but I don't see GST in any of the other spreadsheets. So you look at that and go, is the right numbers been put in there? There's no way of working out what the cost for Masterton of the CCO numbers are, because none of those numbers have been published. I'm not going to go over time, but I'm not going to get any questions. So, total debt, 402 million, 43.44 of the CCO. Total debt, if you add the 4 councils up going alone, 667 million. Where's the gap? That's not efficiency savings. Straight away you look at those numbers and go, there's something wrong here. So this decision shouldn't be made before the election. It's too big to make it. You need to have a mandate from ratepayers around it, and 111 submissions is not a mandate. It may breach the employment law because you said you're going to reduce corporate overheads, so you haven't had a chance to consult with staff what those corporate overheads are going to be. So maybe consider that. It's based on a rushed process. There seems to be government wanting to get local water done well, and so I feel for the council officers who've had to work on this. I wouldn't want to have tried to put this stuff together in that time and allow it to make a decision. It should have the details of the reduction in rates clarified in the document so that people are seeing the same thing. It says that at the moment that Masterton ratepayers are paying $117 a month on average for their water, which works out at about $1,400. Local water done well, CCO, $2,000. Straight away, $600 more expensive. But there's no reduction in rates shown there. We're not showing if there's any reduction in rates. We don't know if it's going to be cheaper overall for us. We don't know what it's going to be. So my view is that the decision should be no. It's the only option that you can go for a council at the moment, and you need to put this back. You need to provide better information to ratepayers. You need to run a better process with numbers which people can read and look at, and get all the shareholders' agreement and the standardisation, all that stuff nutted out first before you go and ask people what the answer they want to have with us. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Jamie. Jamie, you weren't here before. One of the things, one of the difficulties about this process is that we are not allowed to make comments. So we would have probably quite a few comments to some of the stuff you brought up, but we do have staff taking notes on what you said, and those points will be covered in their deliberations report before we deliberate. But do we have any questions for Jamie? No questions for Jamie. Jamie, thank you so much for your two reports, and we deliberate on May the 21st.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, people, that ends the we now need to go to the we now need to go to the recommendations on page 6, where we received the full set of submissions. We note that 139 submissions were received. We note that 11 submitters were confirmed to be heard, and we note that the deliberations meeting is on 21st of May. Somebody prepared to move? Move Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Tuta. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And thank you so much, and thanks to all the submitters, and we'll now close with our closing karakia.
Ka